our entertainment budget was blown out of the water.
Right.
That's the honest truth.
And to be honest, we had to decide to pull money from somewhere that wasn't already in the budget. And that might have been savings, or it might have been just pulling back on doing more and, cutting in another area that was on the budget. But we had to do the same thing that we tell people to do. We had to press pause and say, you know what, we're not going out to eat this week.
Listen, I told the girls, I said, listen, we're done here, okay? we're slow down. We're done here so that we can regroup. Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young, and we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all, let's get into it.
Hey, honey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm good. Hey. Sometimes we got to get our energy up for these podcasts because, you never know what has happened or if you're not fully awake.
I don't know if it was, last week or a few weeks ago, I was the one that you said was all hype.
Yes.
And today it's definitely you that you woke up on one. So
no, I didn't actually. Did I? Was it early?
I guess you didn't wake. I mean, you did get up and you were like, you ready to hit the gym.
I was ready. Yeah, I was ready.
Yeah, so it's all good though.
Yeah, it's some. This is the thing. Sometimes I have to almost psych myself up because we have to give. We got to have something to give when we're having our conversations around money and doing our podcast. We're trying to make sure
we bring things to the people that you can benefit from.
Right, but it's also like if we're not in the right headspace,
if
it's not going to be as great.
If it was low energy or anything like that, people would be like, man, this is boring.
Anyway, so I'm
it's all good.
I'm in a good mood. So
look, it's a new year. God has blessed us to see another year. So I'm about it like you. So I'm excited about what this year can bring and produce in our lives and what it can produce in the lives of others out there. Because, I'm going to say this right now. Don't you know how some people, they will say, oh, I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you. And you know that it's fake. They're not really happy or excited for you. They just like saying that to be facetious, but really deep down they're envious or jealous or they're hating on you. Mm-hmm. I say that with the best of intention that I really want to see people win. Mm-hmm. And I get excited that when people that are watching and listening, I want to see you win. And we want to hear about your successes. So, drop us messages on Instagram, YouTube, comment, whatever venue you're watching on, drop some comments because we look at them.
Yeah. And
we want to hear about your successes and if this is helping your life.
Absolutely. So here's why I needed to come with the energy is because we're going to talk about something that folks don't want to talk about. Let's just be honest. Okay. The pushback that we get, or not on the podcast, but just in general as a financial content creator, the one bit of pushback is around budgeting. And so we just want to give you some hacks because a lot of people take the time at the top of the new year to try and figure out how they can manage their money well and that kind of thing. And typically that begins with a budget, and the resistance is heavy and thick. Okay, around the word budget. And so we just want to break it down, make it a little, easier to digest. I mean, I love Brussels sprouts now, but I tell you 10 years ago, I'm sure I did not. It was an acquired taste. And sometimes that's what budgeting is for people as well. So I'm hopeful that today we'll get a chance to demystify some of the things and let you know that we're still on the journey too. And we're not sharing something with you that we don't do ourselves.
Look, I guess on that note, I'll add this. We know Christmas just passed and we were in full blown Christmas, season like everybody else. And we budget for what we spend over the Christmas holiday. But, we have both kids home and, it's all festive everywhere. So we want to go dine out and we want to do things and, go to shows and the plays and everything. And we, at one point, had to say, hold on, time out. We budgeted for X amount, but we surpassed the budget.
Our entertainment budget was blown out of the water.
Right.
That's the honest truth.
And to be honest, we had to decide to pull money from somewhere that wasn't already in the budget. And that might have been savings, or it might have been just pulling back on doing more and, cutting in another area that was on the budget. But we had to do the same thing that we tell people to do. We had to press pause and say, you know what, we're not going out to eat this week.
Listen, I told the girls, I said, listen, we're done here, okay? we're slow down. We're done here.
Look.
So that we can regroup. And the other part of that is there's so much fun to be had.
Right.
That don't cost anything. We had a really great evening where we just played games and listened to Christmas music and that kind of stuff. And I think we underestimate how powerful it is to just spend quality time together, even if it's just for an hour or two.
There's value. There's value. That's tremendous value in that.
Yeah,
because they're both home, and it's funny that when they come home, they revert back to being, children, and we pay for everything, and it's all good because Santa Dad was in the mood, but
Santa Dad.
But I say, when it comes to, like, first I want to be real with people because we do the same things that we tell you to do.
Right.
And you have to have a starting point when it comes to a budget and a plan. And if you don't have a starting point, then how can you navigate where you want to go and what you want to do? You can't. Because you'll be, flying without a navigation plan, or, navigating on the seas without a rudder, and you'll just be lost. And that's what a budget does. So we want to just help, ground people in the new year on some things that you can do to, not make it such of a hassle, or feel so bad. So I think this is a great place to start.
I love budgets. I'll be honest. I love budgets because you're
a rare breed.
I am. I am. I like spreadsheets. I like numbers. I like to analyze the data. I want to understand how things are going to work. And that's the engineering brain in me. But I like budgets because we actually get to create them. So I think sometimes we make the budget the bad guy. And really, it was that we were either unrealistic in what we were going to do, or we didn't work the budget really well. And so I think it's important. You don't have to call it a budget. Call it whatever you want. We all know what it is, right? You could call it your money plan. You could call it a spending plan. You could call it whatever you want. But it's a budget. It is an accounting of what you're going to do. It is a future plan for money, and typically it's 30 days. And you just want to ensure that you know how things are going to work with your money so that you can reach your goals. The point is, so here's the thing. Here's the biggest thing about a budget that I think bears repeating. And this is the hack, I would say, my first hack in budgeting is realizing why you're doing it. You're not just doing it because you're an adult and this is the responsible thing to do. You're doing it because you actually have a goal that is really important to you. It's important enough to create some healthy boundaries. So hack number one to me is have a goal big enough to make budgeting worth it.
Yeah. And I think just in that same vein of why you do it, I think it really helps you align with your partner.
Yeah.
You get on the same page, and then you guys are going in the same direction. Whereas if you don't have a budget, which I say is just your starting point, then you could be going in two totally different directions. That's going to create animosity. It's going to create stress and arguments that can arise from that. And so one of the big reasons, like you said, why you do it is, I say you have a starting point, and it gives you that guide. Those guardrails in life are important.
They are.
And if you don't have those, then I think you're setting yourself up to fail right off the back. Mm-hmm. And people could say, why do it? That's why.
Well, the other thing is, I can't read your mind. Like, I would love to sometimes get into why you do what you do. Like, sometimes the stuff you do don't make no sense. Or the stuff I do might not make any sense to him. Like, if I could be a mind reader, that would be awesome. But the budget helps put what's in your brain on paper for someone else to see. And that is incredibly helpful.
I don't know if I should be offended or if I should just roll with it. Cause sometimes you said that sometimes the things I do don't make sense.
Don't you feel that way about me?
I mean,
You have told me that don't make no sense.
okay, when you put it like that, it makes sense, because I think the important thing about it, we just think differently sometimes.
Sure.
We have a lot of shared views, but we could be looking at the same issue and have two different points of view or perspectives around the same issue.
And you calculate different than I do. So when we're talking
I do logical math.
Oh.
I do math that makes sense.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This right here is what I'm talking about. So moving on, which is what I have to do all the time, you do math differently than I do, and it's in our head.
Yes.
And so, like, you will think through this, that, and the other, and you'll have your way. And then either I don't understand how you got there, or the math in my head gets us to the same place. It's just a different way of doing it. And sometimes those paths being different aren't a big deal.
I think to expound on that, I think sometimes I'm thinking about things and I'm using different factors.
Yeah.
I may say I'm going to not do this, or I'm gonna use money from over here, or I'm gonna use money from over here. In my free flex money, I may calculate that I'm
Chris's
a factor
play money.
I'm gonna factor that into a decision, and you're not thinking about that. You're like thinking like, well, the budget is set, so if we're spending, it has to come from somewhere in the budget.
Right.
And I might be thinking outside the guides of a budget.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good example of how we're looking at the same thing, wanting the same thing, but we view it differently. And by us coming together and having a conversation, that helps us flush that out. And I think that is what, if we look at the next hack, what's caused us to maybe quit budgeting. I don't think anything makes us quit budgeting.
I don't think I could ever be a non-budgeter. That's the honest truth. I just don't think.
No.
We've been out of debt for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I will ever stop. The way and methods might change.
Right.
But I think I always need a game plan for money, no matter how much money we have accumulated or how much money we're spending.
I think some of the frustrations that people experience that may cause them to stop budgeting is feeling like they can't do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing. Like, well, I want to do this, but I can't because of the budget. And I say it might not be the budget. It might be an income issue.
Yeah.
And that is what it is. Either you're going to go and you're going to make more income in your job or business, or you're going to get a side hustle to supplement what it is you want to do. So it's not necessarily the budget that is the issue. And people will put the stress on the budget versus putting the focus where it needs to be on increasing income, doing something else to bring more into the budget to allow you to do some of those other things that you want to do. And I think that's why people sometimes will abandon budgeting, because it feels restrictive or something like that.
I think so. A budget has two parts, right? The income, like you just said. So increase the income in some way. How can we do that? And then decrease the outgo. And I think the other reason why people don't budget is because they don't want to look at what they're really spending, or there are some other choices that were made that are causing your budget to be restrictive. So the hack could really be, like you said, increase the income or decrease the outgo. And when we're looking at the outgo, man, like, figure out what's in the way of you really being successful with achieving your goal. And so, I mean, there could be a myriad of things going on. One, dining out could be a culprit because you always think you need to eat, but do we need to dine out every single time, and how much are you spending? Or, buying clothing, or having a car payment, because car payments are very expensive, and it really is an interruption in your ability to get lots of things done in the budget. It could be spending on children. It could be a lot of things that don't have, like you said, healthy guardrails around them. And we don't want to look at the budget because it's going to tell us where we have made mistakes. And so I think it's important for you to really remember that we've all made mistakes. None of us get it exactly right or perfectly done each time. And so I think if we can just own up to the fact that we're human,
Right.
That's a big part of this. We're never going to be fully perfect. And so looking at where we've, probably need to make some adjustments on the outgo, I think is a big part of it.
So we said one of the first hacks was have a plan, basically. Because then you have something to start with. You have a roadmap that you're utilizing.
And goals, big time
Right.
goals.
Having goals, and that's part of having the plan. And when you were talking, the next hack I think is like have accountability. Because it's that accountability that helps keep you on track, and then you can step back and look at those things that's taking you away from the budget, or those things that you feel are restrictive, or if it is really a lack of income, then you become accountable to change that part of it, because we don't want to put, you said it's human nature, and sometimes we don't want to put that onus on ourselves. We want to deflect and say, well, it's not me, it's you, or it's the budget, or it's something else. And what is that? That's a lack of accountability. And so people may say, well, that's not really a hack. Well, if you're not being accountable, yeah.
It is. No, it's a total hack, because you have to look at, are you accountable to your spouse?
Yep. Or your partner.
Are you accountable to what you said you were going to do? That's integrity. And are you accountable to your goals? Are you committed to what you said you wanted? And
are you accountable to yourself?
Exactly, right? Like, we can't pull the wool over our own eyes. So I think we tend to reject stuff that makes us uncomfortable. And a lot of that stuff could make you uncomfortable. And it really is okay, because if your goal is big enough, it is worth fighting for.
Yes.
It is worth getting uncomfortable for and doing something new, something different. And I would even say, even if you are a budgeter, just, I think, have some new eyes to see, is the way that you're doing it really still working? And is there something, even something small, that needs to change and adapt?
I think that leads me to the next hack. Keep it simple, because people want to overcomplicate a budget or a spending plan, but literally just break it down into simple steps. And if you're budgeting for, a party of one, all income and all outgo needs to be listed. If you're budgeting as a couple, both of your incomes need to be listed, and then all the expenses need to be listed as well, because then you're accountable to where every dollar is going. It's not that hard.
It's not. Actually, it's easy. It's hard to stick with it.
Ooh.
Okay. So I will say it does take a couple months. Let's just be honest. Let's just put it out there. Month 1, if you've never done a budget before, you're not going to get it 100% right the first time.
Yep.
So give yourself a few months, and I say 3.
Show yourself a little bit of grace.
Absolutely, because like I said, we're not perfect, and we're going to forget stuff. And one of the biggest things that are forgotten is the non-monthly items, the things that don't happen every single month, that happen just like, so for instance, every January, our homeowners association bill is due. And I remember year 1, when we moved here, we had this bill that came up right after Christmas.
We were like, what is this?
We were like, oh, hold on a second. And we had lived here for 6 months and had not thought about this HOA. Right. And then this $600 bill comes up, and we're like, oh, shoot. And it's due. Like, you can't, we could have made payments prior to, but all of it is due.
It's time to pay.
Right. And so when you think about, okay, what are some of those things? And I think easily, forgetting those things is easy to do. And now what we do with those kinds of things is divide it up by 12 months.
Same
so
thing.
That it makes it simple on a monthly basis. Like you said, it's simple, but you got a plan.
But it took some action as well, because after that first time, I know I never like getting, surprise bills that are $500, $600, $700, $800, whatever it is. I don't like getting a surprise for that, because from a budgetary perspective, most budgets don't have that much cushion in them that you could just say, oh, we'll just, we got cushion in the budget. We'll just account for that. You got to go into your savings. And I don't like going into savings unless it's for, emergencies like we have talked about in the past. And sometimes you got to do it, but that's not a habit that you want to get into. And so like for us, just breaking that down over 12 months, it's just bite-sized pieces. So then it goes into the budget as part of saving. And we know we're saving to pay a particular expense. And for us, putting it in monthly is just so much simpler than just trying to pay big chunks or pay big bills as they may arise. And I think that's where some of the simplicity comes. And with me, simplicity brings a sense of ease, and that can be, mental ease. That can be relationship ease. Because life, we want life to be as simple and as easy as possible because life presents enough on its own to take away some of that ease and bring more stress without us adding to it.
Yeah.
Work and family and kids and just in general, it will bring stress that you didn't ask for.
So on that note, with ease, another hack I would say is try and get as much as you can on auto pay.
Oh, yes.
So that you do not have to physically pay a bill or forget and then pay, late fees and stuff like that. Get as much as you can on auto pay. That is a huge, huge savings. And I know a lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want to give someone else access to their account. They don't want to be surprised with the bill. Well, why? The budget helps you not be surprised.
Right.
You know what's coming. You know you got to pay your utilities. Usually, it's really just utilities, the things that are routine. I know people
the 20 subscriptions for Paramount and Peacock and Hulu and Netflix.
Reevaluate.
Right.
Are they needed? That is a really good exercise.
Those are luxuries in a lot of ways to have, And we're talking about it too because we look at
we got 6,
7 different.
It's terrible.
I'm almost ready to go back to cable.
I wish we had cable. That honestly, see, that's simple because instead of 10
is one
less than $10 subscriptions, you got one payment. That's $100 or whatever it is, right?
Yes, but I think people also have to remember you can put savings on auto draft. Like set it up with your bank where when you when you get paid, have it set that you're going to save money into your emergency fund or wherever you're putting your savings. And you can do it like we do it at work. You do it with your 401k. Let that come out first before you get your pay, and then you work from there. Now you've already taken care of your future by saving for retirement, saving for things down the line, with your 401k. And savings helps you be ready if emergency should arise. Those things can be put on auto pay also, and that does make life simpler. So when we say the hack is keep it simple, there's a lot of things that we can do to try and keep it simple in that way.
One thing that I thought about was big payments, right? So mortgage or rent, that kind of trips people up. And so one of the things that I would highly recommend if, you see how this works in your budget, but to put half into a different account. So half of your rent or half of your mortgage, each paycheck into a different account so that it is set aside so that you're not taking it all out of one.
You're not nibbling on it.
Right. Or taking having it come out of all one account. That's a top heavy. That's a hard lift, right? We did this with our daughter. Every time she gets paid, she puts money into a separate account so that she always has her rent. And I do also recommend just have the rent come out of that account. You can have it come out of your savings account. You can have your mortgage come out of a savings account. Just have it, the money's automatically put over there regularly. You don't have to remember to do it. And then that just gives you a sense of peace of mind that is not something you actually have to press the button or pay extra fees because you forgot about it. And it secures your biggest piece of the budget, right? It makes everything else feel a little easier to tackle. And so that I definitely would think is a hack.
Yeah, and I think part of that, keep it simple, is make room for some fun money.
Always.
I felt like that was a big thing for me, just to have pocket change to do whatever, not pocket change, but have some pocket funds to do whatever. And I think that is where you can feel like you're not getting burned out on the budget because you have money that you say is fun money or miscellaneous, whatever you want to call it, and you can do whatever you want to with that. And I think that gives you the latitude to just, go to Starbucks or have lunch out or whatever. Or you want to go do some shopping and you have fun money or miscellaneous money. It allows you to have some freedom and flexibilities because that money technically doesn't have a name. Then you can assign whatever name you want to it. I think that's important.
It is. And actually, that's a big thing. We were budgeters for like a long time. I mean, we didn't actually make that change till we moved to Indianapolis. So we were at least, 13 years, 14 years into our relationship when we realized that was really important to you. And it has made a lot easier, like the flexibility that you have to do the things that you want to do. That makes it so much easier. And I don't worry about what's going on in the budget because I just put a little category that says Chris's play money. Like that actually has been really helpful. But it took a while for us to figure out that was a need that you had.
Yeah, I think it took a while because I didn't know it was a need.
Right.
Once I realized that, I like to have cash on hand and not have to, always try and check in and talk about stuff. I want to do what I want to do. You want to be free.
I think you had this moment where you was like, I'm tired of these girls spending all my money. Okay.
I'm tired of putting them first.
Right. And
everything.
Right. And
I'm out here in the salt mines working. I want to do what I want to do.
Let's be honest. See, those last few words. How many words is that? I don't know. I want to do what I want to do. That part, we had to plan. We had to put that check in the budget. Maybe that's what we should call it. We shouldn't call it Chris's play money. We need to call it, I want to do what I want to do. He ain't want to have to. And I think that that's fair for a grown person who is gainfully employed, who is working their butt off, to feel like they don't have to come and take account for going to 7-Eleven or Starbucks or buying a pair of denim, right? Like, I just think.
You said 7-Eleven and a pair of denim. Like,
but what I'm saying is.
What are you talking about?
I'm just saying, like, you shouldn't feel like you got to be like, all right, honey, so I want to go do this. And is this in the budget? That's one, for a man, it can be emasculating. But two, I was
going to say, I ain't used to do that.
No, but I'm just saying, like, this.
Okay, honey. I'll be like, look, I'm about to go do what I want to do.
Yeah, I know.
Budget about to be messed up.
Now, who got the energy right now? Who got the energy right now?
But what I know what you're saying is that you and I both check in with each other.
We do.
And that's because we have respect for one another and we have respect for the budget and we have respect for where we're trying to go.
That's right.
Especially when we were on the journey of trying to get out of debt and trying to build, a good emergency fund and just trying to be on track with putting things in place.
Right.
So it's not about even trying to be macho or anything like that. It was about, I saw the bigger plan, you saw the bigger plan, and we would always check in with each other.
Yeah.
And I know my tolerance level for spending is higher than yours, and you would even check in on like small purchases and be like, hey, I want to do such and such. I'd be like, okay, go ahead. Do it. It's all good. And I know I would have more freedom to just do something, but I think that helped to alleviate that. We won't even talk about that.
We don't.
Now, and I know we're at a different point because we are out of debt. And I know some people that you need to hear this because they're not at the same point and their relationship isn't at the same point. So they need those check-ins.
And it really is, you can decide how much money you want to be in the play money or miscellaneous funds or whatever it is, fund money. You can decide. It could be $40, $100, $200. I don't know what it is, but you can figure out what it is that you are in control of, what your budget can support, and what you guys are okay with, spending without the check-in, if you will. And I think that that's fair. The other hack, if you will, is to just ensure that you know what that base level amount is that you will not spend over without having a conversation.
That's it, yeah.
So for me, it really is around $100. It's like, if I'm spending $150, we having a conversation. Like, that's important to me,
right? Because
something might need to be maneuvered, right? Like, we can't just, up and just spend $150 without looking at, like, that has to be in the budget. But also, if there's something additional, and a lot of times for us, it turns out to be like, household stuff. Like, we got, we're getting a dishwasher, or you know what I mean, like something bigger where we actually really have to have a conversation. But usually I'm not trying to spend something huge, without us having a conversation.
I was shocked at how much a dishwasher costs nowadays.
Oh my gosh.
Jesus.
That was
a small business loan.
Absolutely. And actually it was not something we could say, well, this is our Christmas present. We had already spent the money on Christmas.
Look, nobody wants a dishwasher for Christmas anyway.
I know that's right.
Please, that's not my Christmas present.
Thank you, Lord. Listen, we were at the place when we were getting the dishwasher, and I said it out loud in front of the person helping us. I was like, and this is not the Christmas present. He was like, you got that right. The guy helping us, and I saw a ring on his finger. And
because he knew he was an older guy. He knew.
He probably been married about 40, 50 years.
His wife was like, don't give me no
don't ever give me Christmas. An appliance for Christmas.
No, sir.
No, because that implies you gonna give me some work to do.
Right.
Anyway.
But I think like the hack here is, make sure you have that spending plan. Mm-hmm. And, I know we talked about budgets versus spending plans. And, the budget, as we talked about, it was the overall view of everything that's happening over the course of that month. Mm-hmm. And then the spending plan is when you get into the specifics per paycheck.
Right, because most people don't get paid one time a month. If you get paid one time a month, great. You might not need a spending plan. But if you get paid
twice a month,
or two people get paid 2 different times a month.
Oh man, you definitely have to be on a spending plan.
Because you got to know when stuff is due, especially if it's on auto pay. You got to make sure that every single week you got enough to pay for everything, including groceries and gas and all the things.
I think when you're in a relationship and there's 2 people getting paid at different cadences, that's when people mess up. Because somebody gets paid, oh, let's go out for dinner, it's the weekend. Yep. And then that's not in the budget for that week. Yep. Or the next week, somebody else gets paid because you always feel like you got money coming in. It's like, oh, yeah, let's go to this show. Or it's like, okay, well, it still needs to, you go and do that stuff, but it still needs to be.
Plan for it. Yep. Make sure that you have enough either fun money or wiggle room, or you've planned for it ahead of time to be able to do those things. Honestly, it's not, there are a few steps in getting this budget together. There really is. There's several steps, and it's a learning process. And I think, like you said, you mentioned the word grace, like give yourself grace in that process. One of the biggest things that has been helpful for us the entire time that I think that we've been married is we have always used a tracking tool. So a huge hack to me is don't allow just pen and paper, if possible. Do not allow that to only be your resource. You probably should have a tracking tool that helps you see how you're doing on a routine basis. So I was able to see, are we on track with our Christmas spending? Because every few days I was looking at it and seeing, okay, here are all the things that were expenses for Christmas. Are we still on track? That kind of stuff. That tool helps us. And
that tool, it could be anything, because like I will look at the account and I will kind of see, what's coming in and what's going out. But then I'll check in with you because we'll use Excel or we'll use, we used to use Quicken a lot.
We use Money, Microsoft Money. Then we use Quicken. Now we use Monarch. And all of those tools help you to add it all up, because it's one thing to look at the account. It's another thing to know how much it's adding up to.
And you can use anything. I mean, you could just use Excel.
You can.
But you got to have something, some software or some app or just some tool that helps you keep track of what's going on, in addition to monitoring your accounts and things like that, because both of those in together, looking at your account and looking at the tool to keep track of it, helps you stay, in tune with what's going on and stay on budget, stay on track with your spending plan for that week or every 2 weeks. And so that's why it becomes so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know we started the year out talking about budgeting and people are probably not super excited, but we want to make sure that you have the tools to help build success going throughout 2025. And if you start and put these hacks into place, it'll make the ride in 2025 a lot smoother as you're on your journey, wherever you're at, whether you are out of debt and you have a savings fund, emergency fund, and you're, building your retirement and looking at different things to do with that, maybe things outside of your 401k, which we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff as we go throughout the year. Wherever you're at on this journey, this is how I believe everybody has to start the year. Mm-hmm. Have a plan, know what you need to do to be on track, to be in alignment, because that sets you up for success.
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about make it worth it. You ready?
Yeah.
So honestly, I think we gave a lot of tips or hacks, however you want to call it. And I just think the big picture is make sure that you do something. Just do something. Honestly, you can't make a budget worth it if you don't do anything at all. Mm-hmm. Right? So however you choose to take on this budgeting process, whatever adjustments you need to make, just make certain that you get into action, because we don't want this to only be lip service. We want this to really be meaningful, for you to have dramatic change in your finances and for you to reach all the goals that you have for the year. And so figure out what needs to be adjusted and how you're doing the budgeting process, and take some action. And so we want to hear about it. Just like Chris said earlier, just send us a comment, respond to an email, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. And we also have a newsletter that we send out on a weekly basis. So feel free, on our website, forbetterinworth.com, you can feel free to check that out. And we're just excited to be with this journey, on this journey with you. And hopefully this makes a difference in the way that you approach your budgeting process.
So I'll leave people with this as far as my make it worth it. Stay focused on why you're doing this. And remember, this is not a one and done type of thing. You always need to do some sort of spending plan. And just know this, we still budget and we still have a spending plan. So, it's not a one and done thing. It's going to be an ongoing thing, because we like to be focused on the bigger things that are going to help us accomplish the goals that we have set. Yep. So I feel like it's a great way to start, and we hope you feel that way.
Yep.
And until next time,
we're out.
Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at ForBetterAndWorth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on ForBetterAndWorth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.